All right, UH Nation. My name is Reed Nelson. I'm joined by co-host Izzy Kafas. How are you today, sir?
Good. Love the hair.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's get started. Awesome game tonight between the Avengers and the Club. Game of the year so far? Our ending of the year for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was a lot of complaining, a lot of sloppy play up and I'm shocked that the Club won that game because they never win those games.
Xavier Hussein had to make 2 shots to, I think, in regulation to win the game. I think he made 1.
Made the first.
Missed the first, made the second.
Missed the first, made the second.
Okay, they go into overtime. Adam Kidd is at the line with 2 shots to take the lead. He misses the first and the second, which we're showing right now. And then Mr. Briggs tips in the game winner, which he will describe later in this show. We actually had a chance to sit down with Mr. Briggs as well. And then Derek Batiste almost puts in a 3/4 court shot, or half to 3/4 court shot. I mean, rims out. I mean, overall thoughts on the game?
It was awesome. I caught the last 5 minutes that was coming from St. Louis Park. And I was sitting directly behind where Derek was launching that ball. And from the beginning, that thing looked good. And it had a perfect line. It just hit the backboard too hard. If it just had a little less on it, that thing's banking in. And the gym would have erupted. It would have been so awesome.
The gym was having a great time with it. I mean, there must have been at least 75, 80 people here watching that moment. So you and Derek are going to discuss the Blizzard situation. I interviewed Jason. He's going to do it at the end of the show, so we're not going to talk about that. I'm excited for us to move on. But let's talk about them and the Gorillas game yesterday. It got a little chippy at the end. Now, I didn't see it, but talk about this budding rivalry. I mean, they don't like you guys, do they?
Well, I don't think they like anybody. I don't think I've ever seen Quentin Brown shake anybody's hand ever. I don't even think he's shook his own teammates' hands. Have you? Honestly,
no comment at all.
Okay, here's the deal. They're playing like the little villain card, which I totally respect. I'm totally fine with it. Okay, I'm fine that they're jerks. But you can't lose by 30 and then be jerks. You gotta be gracious in defeat at some point. I mean, Quentin Brown is disrespected. He used to wear a gray. It was a white jersey. It was so dirty that it was gray. So you almost had to. If they were white, he was still dark. That's how dirty his shirt was. So he's like been disrespecting the league from the beginning.
I thought it was a gold jersey. Was I wrong?
Yesterday it was, but I'm just saying in general. He's a bad sport. I'm totally fine with being a bad sport, but you got to be a beast if you're going to do that. You can't just be some run-of-the-mill guy to do that. You know what I mean? So it's kind of frustrating. Devin hit me with an elbow yesterday, walking to the free throw line, and talked to him after the game, and I retaliated. I got sent to the bench, got teed up. He kind of took onus and apologized. He said, I was just frustrated, spur of the moment. I respect it. I'm fine with it. No hard feelings after that. You know, Jordy's a great guy. What's his name? The guy from the kids team, high schoolers from Egan. Zach, I think is his first name. Nice guy. Joe Steffler's one of the nicest guys.
Oh, yeah.
They're all nice guys. Devin feeds off of Quentin, I think, and Quentin's just the biggest jack ever.
Is it Zach Wallace?
Zach Wallace, okay. That's his name.
Yeah, got it.
So, if you're going to be a jack, Quentin Brown, you got to do one or two things. You have to win playoff games, okay, and you have to be good at really good at basketball. He's good enough, but he's not good enough to talk smack.
You're brave. I'm not saying anything negative about him.
I mean, if he's going to shoot me over this, then he's got bigger problems in his life.
Okay, we're at week 6. I feel like we've been talking controversy now for pretty much the last month. Let's get talking about a little bit of basketball. How about who surprised you this season?
Ooh. There hasn't really been any team that has stood out. You know, the teams here in Fridley, they're beating up on each other. There's some, we played them tonight. They're a solid team. They work hard. These young kids going up against some of these older guys, it's really tiring for us. You know, most of these, there's like a huge gap. There's either old teams full of late 20s and there's young teams full of early 20s. There's really not much in the middle. And when you play these teams, it gets really tiring. So, great team here. I think they could make some noise if they get matched up against an older team. In Bloomington, there's nobody that stood out to me personally. I can't think of anybody. The Broncos would have been it, but they got shellacked.
2 weeks in a row. How about the Red Devils?
They're always there. They always do the same thing. They got when you give them teams like these mid-tier teams, they're going to feast on them because those mid-tier teams aren't good enough to run away from them. And the Red Devils play such great defense and move the ball around on offense that they'll squeak out those games all the time.
Well, I'm excited we're back in the swing of things, at least for now. I'm going to let you and Derek go uncensored, back and forth. In fact, you already taped it, and I was off to the side, sort of had my ear to it, but you guys have earned the form. You guys have earned the right to go on to this show, and I mean, it's your show, and say what you want, and I'm going to let you do that. So here comes Derek and Izzy.
UH Nation, this is Derek Batiste. This is Izzy Alcafas. You know what we're going to get into. Now, the long-awaited response or clarification has come out by Alan. Let me ask you the introductory question. Actually, let me sum up. We knew that Alan made this concession to these three players who played in the ABA. We knew why he did it, because of the legitimacy, quote-unquote, of the ABA, of the Blizzards. What do we know now, after that video has come out, that we did not know beforehand?
That the Rochester Fire were a scam. That's what we learned tonight, which pretty much did nothing for us. Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it. Love you.
Okay. We don't need to go into our opinion regarding the fallout of all of this. I guess we just want to sum up. What are your thoughts on how everything has...
Here's the deal. I requested to interview Alan because I knew that the interview would go something like what it did. Okay. Just prove nothing. I would have asked him questions that Reed decided not to ask. He asked him questions that we already answered 2 weeks ago. So it doesn't really matter. What we're trying to find out is why the contradiction. Explain the contradiction, not just a subjective way of deciding if ABA is legit or not. Like, that doesn't matter to the 200 players in the league, right? So you can't say that, well, college is not okay, pros are not okay, this league's not okay, the NBDL is not okay, but the ABA, it's not okay. But if the team doesn't have the money to support the franchise and they fold, it's okay. Like, it's just way too trimmed down to fit them into the league, okay? I'm not saying that they should be out of the league. Never said that. But if we're gonna make the rule, we have to make the rule to somehow fit them in without making it look like it's an exception. Now, Alan could have saved face and just made, and he doesn't have to save face, maybe that's not the right term, but all he had to say was, I made a decision back then, now there's a players committee to prevent this from happening moving forward. Maybe it was a questionable decision. Then we can all move on and say, okay, they've been grandfathered in, that's fair. However, quote, he said, I would make the same decision today, which is unbelievable. Like, he just, the hole at this point is so deep that he's just like clawing onto the dirt, and he's just sinking farther and farther down. And some people will agree with him just because they've been around a long time ago and the decision was made a long time ago. But if you listen to his description of what rec is and who's eligible, he's contradicting himself. And even when he wrote on the UH Life website that if you want to play rec, stay 100 feet away from a college gym or anything post high school basketball. And I'm pretty sure that those tryouts, that coach team, the money that they paid to try out to make the team is a little closer than 100 feet. And that is the ultimate point. Because I tell you what, you and I aren't making an ABA team, regardless of whether it folds or not. Reed Nelson, Brian Martin, these guys aren't making it. There's a reason why these guys were such a big part of the league and why Marcus was a 27-time MVP. The rule was put in place for competitive balance, and I hate to beat a dead horse. I'm not saying I want them out. I love having Marcus in the league. I love having Keelan in the league when he actually plays. Johnny Webb, I like Johnny Webb personally. But the rule has to be equal for everybody. It can't just be chosen. So, Alan, if he wants to come online and say, decision was made back then, it's questionable now, we have you guys here to help this moving forward. We can put this to rest and move on. But he keeps defending a bad point. Clearly subjective.
Right. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head in that when this decision was made, and let me reiterate, we support the decision that was made in 2008. The video is 18 minutes of Alan defending a decision that we've already told him we are okay with. The issue is that now, with the Travi Baby saga, there are systems in place, and this goes back to my personal experience with the very first players committees. You know, it's an interesting question. Let me ask you a question. Could you imagine playing in this league, knowing that when you went into the playoffs, you were never going to see a Bloomington team? The playoffs was going to be just for league. Could you imagine playing in that league now? Were you playing in the league before the tournament era?
First season was at the beginning of 2010, and at that point it had already merged.
Right. So to me, and this might be an idealistic point of view, the players committee was assembled to push the growth of the league. The players, Alan said it, the players, us, the media, we help this league grow and succeed. And there are systems in place where we could have made these decisions. If you wanted to say, I made that decision back then, you guys can go ahead and try and make it now. And here's the thing. We spent 3 hours over 3 hours per meeting. And then, it's not like it was today where we just have seating meetings. We had like separate meetings in the middle of the season, and we were leaving the gym at like 1 a.m.
Right.
Because we were going back and forth on trying to get the rec eligibility rule amended.
Right.
I am very curious, had we ever gotten something amended if Alan would have come in and kiboshed it? Because that's basically what he's doing. He's coming in and he's saying, I'm the boss, bitch. This is the way it goes.
And he has every right to do so. True. Okay?
Very true.
That's what he should say. He should pick just stop defending and say, you know what, guys, I run this league. Go somewhere else if you don't like it. They're playing the league. Get off my back. I respect that more than trying to fit them into the rule. They're not. Stop doing it, Alan. Please, I beg you. It doesn't make sense. You can't just pick and choose what's legitimate to you. It's got to be black and white. Everybody's got to view it the same way. If you say college, anything past high school, it's got to be anything past high school. It can't be anything past high school as long as I don't deem it. I can't even.
Right. We've gone around and around. I think the ultimate fallout is that we need to any literate basketball player should be able to go to the rules page on the website and be able to tell unequivocally they can or cannot play rec.
Right.
So, thank you, Alan, for the quote-unquote clarification. Obviously, it wasn't very helpful, but...
And based on the rules, I agree that Travi should be kicked out. Based on the rules.
I agree, too.
Okay?
I agree, too.
But the rule needs to be black and white, and then that means that other things need to happen. Like it's got.
How do you make that rule black and white, but make it so that because apparently
because the only way you can do it is grandfathering the guys in, saying that the decision wouldn't be made today. They probably wouldn't be able to play today, but it was made back then, and they've been in the league for 7 years. And at this point, we can't just kick them out.
Right.
Grandfather them in.
So, all right, Ultra Noops Nation, Jason Briggs here to discuss the Alan Arlt interview. Which you said you weren't going to watch yesterday.
I didn't watch it.
Okay, so
I watched it. I watched it
so
KFC today.
is that the truth?
in the parking lot at KFC
Awesome.
in Roseville.
Awesome. Okay, so what were your thoughts?
Horrible. No. I appreciate an owner that will spend the time to engage with some passionate and stubborn employees / players and make a long video. So that was very thoughtful of him.
I love how you use the two words that he'd use to describe you guys.
I showed you that. I watched it. I do have a couple comments. Number one, Alan brought up policing rec and people getting mad at narcs. And I don't think people get mad at narking as much as they do anonymous narking. Someone comes up to me as Players Committee Chairman and says, hey, this guy played here, or sends me an email, Twitter message, Facebook or whatnot. I think, or to you, to Chad, to Emily, I think that's an appropriate way to handle the situation. To anonymously post something on the website is it's just classless. And people don't do it to police the league. People do it to get wins or try to make teams worse. It's not like, some great guy. It's not like Chris Maher's coming up and saying, listen, guys, we're a great guy, saying we really should do this. We got to get rid of this guy because it's creating an unfair advantage. No, it's some guy who will send something after their team got blown out by 30 points and say, oh, the guy who scored 2 points, illegal, boom. That's what I don't like. I'm all for policing the league, having a great clean league, but there's class in how you do it. Second, the Marcus leaked video. I did like how you made it seem like Izzy and I were just holding on to this thing for a rainy day.
Back pocket.
Every season, or maybe every other season, people come up and talk about Marcus Marshall. You would be surprised all the links that I've been sent. And we brought it up once before. Otherwise, I just dismiss them and say, listen, people knew about it before I got here. That's the rule, so on and so forth. So Thursday after this Travis, maybe it was Wednesday. I think it was Thursday, though. This Travis thing blows up. Shortly after the Brett Torrance thing happens too, someone says, hey, thought you said Marcus didn't play games, and sends me a YouTube video. So that's how that started. It's not a coincidence, all right? These things happen in threes, typically. Bad things happen in three. I will not narc out a narc, but there is something in common. Brett Torrance, Travis Johnson, Marcus Marshall. And it's not post-high school experience. So think about it. Player, team, who benefited or would have benefited by 3 players being out. So
I'll have to think about that
riddle
one.
me that, Reed Nelson.
Okay, so as for Alan's explanation overall, you're obviously not pleased.
It's not that, again, I appreciate him doing that. I think he missed the point. We were not asking for a Blizzard's history lesson, which, damn if he didn't know a lot about the team. We were asking for fairness and for an explanation as to why one team would get an exception and one team would not. And I know the idea double standard exception is apparently a red flag and something you as corporate drone Reed and Alan as owner don't agree with. But here are my facts, Reed.
Fact time.
Fact time. You have 3 players that may or may not have played for an ABA team based on someone's definition of legitimate, right? Alan made a subjective decision based on the information he had, some of his own thoughts based on what happened in Rochester to allow these people to play. Was it the right decision? It's not for me to say, but I agree with him. I would have done the same thing. He took that case, he set it aside and said, listen, this happened. I didn't like this. Let's let him play. Now, here's the question. How come he will spend the time, put the thought and effort into allowing these players to play, and coming up with this, like really examining the situation and saying, oh, I can't count this. They were rostered, they practiced, they were coached, they played exhibition games, but I can't count them because of this, and this. He's going to put all that work into those 3 players. But yet, for everyone else who's ever strapped on a pair of tennis shoes for Minnesota Rec has to live by this black or white rule. Why subjective for 3 guys, where you look at the facts, you look at all this, and completely black or white for everyone else? Did Marcus play a legitimate ABA game, an official ABA game against an ABA team? No. Was he rostered? Yes. Did he practice? Yes. Was he coached? Yes. Did he play exhibition games? Yes. But because his definition of a legitimate franchise does not include the Minnesota Blizzards, he's allowed to play. I'm fine with that. But we got guys who got cut from the JV team before the season started. Did they play basketball after high school? Did they play?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you, did they play? Did they play like Marcus played? Or did they not play like Marcus didn't play? What about a guy who got hurt before the season started? Never played in a game. Not JV, not varsity, not exhibition. He showed up for picture day, but because he showed up for picture day and is on a roster, he is considered ineligible. Why is that? Why is the rule that way for one person and not the other? And no one is saying Allen made the bad decision. I think that's what got lost in this. We agree with letting them play, but we don't agree in being subjective with 3 guys and black or white with everyone else. Let's look common sense into some of this, right? This is done for competitive reasons. Is there a better player in the history of Minnesota Rec than Marcus Marshall? He's like maybe 400 points behind Ryan Samuelson in all-time scoring with 100 less games. Right? So it wasn't a competitive decision. So you can't say, oh, Travis is so good, he can't play. Cole Fashing is so good, he can't play. I think the rule needs to be changed to really define what it is, because as written, these 3 guys will always be exceptions. They'll always be exceptions. They'll always be seen as Allen made a special case because he's got a strong opinion against the ABA. And I don't think that's right. I think it could be changed to really define what experience is. They didn't play, okay? They intended to play. They were rostered, but the funding fell through. Travis intended to play. He was rostered, but he got hurt. Neither one played, but yet only one's allowed in rec, or only 3 of them are allowed in rec. I don't think that's fair. I think that's what the double standard is. And it's not, let's tear down the Celtics and the T-Pups. That was some stuff posted online, and I did the hashtag legacy over logic, and I'm a ball buster, so that's what happens. And it was not me saying take the gold cups away. That was other people online, and that's just to get Jay Moore's goat, I'm sure. But we want Marcus in. We just want the rule to be the same for everybody, and right now it's not.
Okay. Obviously, I let you just run there, which is fine. Any other final thoughts?
I wouldn't mind just a rebuttal from Allen just to cover what we talked about right now. Not the Blizzards again. He gave us some facts that we didn't know as to why he made his decision to let them in. But really all he did was paint the picture as to why he made an exception for these players. And I want to know why he'll make an exception for these players and be black or white for everyone else. And he's anti-ABA, I get that, but not played a legitimate game also qualifies Travis and others to make them eligible. I mean, they didn't play in games. I don't even think they practiced.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
we gonna play a game now?
We already played that game. Do you want to play the game
I
again?
want to play that game again.
Okay, we're going to play a game called Fix That Franchise.
Okay.
With 3 franchises in the Bloomington South Lifetime Fitness.
Okay.
We'll start it out with a team that have really had 2 big opportunities these last 2 weeks and have really struggled badly, the Broncos. How would you fix that franchise?
Cut a guy immediately. Don't care who it is. I give you 3 options. I'm not going to publicly out people right now. They are not a franchise built for 8 guys. They've got. I'm not going to say they've got so much talent, but they've got enough talent to where there's certain guys that should be playing 35 to 38 minutes a game that are now playing 25, 26, 27. Broughton, Fredrickson, Morris need to play more. Michael Morris might be their best player, and he probably sat more than everyone else on that team. It was awful. When he's not in, and he's only playing small stretches, he's not as aggressive. So I think you got to get back to 7 guys. Blue Horns can play 8 guys because you get guys like me who are comfortable playing 10, 12 minutes, getting a sweat, burning 6 calories, and sitting back down. They're not the same thing. They need their core guys to play more. Finally, Jacob Barton should be their 6th man. He's like Vinnie Johnson, Quincy Lewis. He needs to come in when some of the other options are tired, get him in, have him go to town one-on-one, and get him out. I just think the offense stalls, and it ends up being let's watch Jacob out there. So,
Okay, second team, the Bloomington South version of Jesus Shuttlesworth.
they need to learn league rules. You have timeouts. Use them. You've got 6 players. One of them's hurt and one of them's old. And you refuse to call a timeout in the first half, so the second half you are miserable. They blew the game themselves just based on not being able to look over to the ref and go, hey, my old guy's tired. And second, the game is who scores the most points, not who makes the other person look foolish. I love the pride thing. I scored more points than you, but scoreboard, you're down 18. All right? So I really don't know what the heck was going on. It turned into a one-on-one, let's make Greg Wells look foolish. Greg kept his mouth shut for the most part and just had his team win by 18 points. He said, we're going to just one play. Let's give Glenn Fair the ball, wait for them to double, and have him kick it out. And you guys scored 90 points using one play. So congratulations. It was beautiful.
Thank you. The final team, summer season champions, actually, or spring season champions, the Rebels.
I would say stop eating the bear claws, but that was I just like getting people's goats because I did have a bear claw after the game last night, so I shouldn't talk. You had got the Rebels got a brand new player that is actually pretty damn good that I don't know if they know he's on the team yet. Carson Cody Hines he's got the Rebels mentality. He's gritty. He fights. But on the offensive end, he might as well be invisible. So I think guys like Brown, Ferber, even some of the guard, Jansen's you got some unselfish players on that team. Set some off-the-ball screens for Cody. Go back to spacing. You don't need to run a pick and roll every time. You don't need to give it to Monska and say, give me something out of that catapult. You don't need to have DuPont do his little shimmy and little bank like he does every time. Go left, shoot right, one of those deals. I got his move down. All right, I could guard him. The defensive intensity's there. It could ramp it up a little bit more, but I think they're so stagnant on offense. They just stand around, and when they are moving, they're not doing anything. It's just like a 3-man weave out there, and it's rough to watch because they have too much talent. So what's that goofy little smirk on your face for?
I'm actually just thinking about if this is going to be the final interview of the show, because if it would, I would say, thanks, see you next week. If it's not, I'm just going to say thank you. But what I figured I could cover both bases by saying, thanks, Jason, see you next week. So now I have everything covered. All right. See you next week. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm so over this stuff. I just cannot wait to move on. Get to the playoffs already.